Hello, hello. I am back with you live for an Ask Me Anything on all things podcasting. My name is Andrea Klunder. If we're just meeting for the first time, and I am the founder, creator, producer, creative director, strategist. What are my other titles? Editor, story editor, content director. Of the Creative Imposter Studios, which is a boutique podcast production and strategy agency based in Chicago. And I am getting ready to do a summer series of live streams for the Creative Imposter Live featuring some dynamic creators in the digital space and also professionals who support those creators. So, experts in personal branding, in graphic design, in project management, and also artists and creators who have things to say about the intersection of what we make and who we are. So, the intersection of creativity and identity. That is the ongoing through line of the Creative Imposter. And of course, we're going to be talking about a lot of things podcasting, but even expanding that out a little bit to podcasting and content creation, digital media in general. And there are reasons for that, which I am not going to get into so much at this point in time. I wanted to create an opportunity for some folks to ask me some questions and for me to do my best to provide some answers or at least responses that will generate more things for you to think about in a helpful, useful, structured way. And that is what I have for you today. Nice and easy. I'm looking at my list of questions here now. Question number one. This is probably one of the most common questions that I get, that I have gotten over 10 years of podcasting, etc., which is, how do I reliably and consistently grow my audience? And in fact, if you go to a podcasting conference with a lot of session breakouts that you can attend, you are likely going to see sessions that are about audience growth. And those are going to be packed sessions. Those are going to be wildly popular and well attended. And I hate to tell you that the answer is, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. And I'm not it's not because there's something wrong with my knowledge base or anything like that. It is simply because uh it depends. And if a client is asking me about audience growth, then the things that I am going to suggest are questions for reflection. The first question that I always ask is, why do you want to grow your audience? Uh, that may seem like an obvious question, like bigger audience is better, right? Well, not necessarily, because if we really think about it, what does a bigger audience do for you? And in order to answer that question, you have to look at what it is that you want your podcast to do for you. Why are you podcasting? What is the purpose of your show? Is your purpose to become internet famous and to have a huge audience? Maybe, but probably not. Most of the people I talk to, that's not the main purpose. Your main purpose is usually to grow awareness about your business, your products or services, your mission, your nonprofit organization. It is to generally create engagement, because it's not enough necessarily for people just to listen to or watch your podcast, your show. So, if you are creating a podcast, that the podcast is the thing. Let's say you have a fiction podcast and the podcast is the thing, it is the story, it is the product, it is the thing you want people to uh either support or donate money to, maybe through a Patreon, or maybe you're using an advertising model where you're part of a network and you've got ad sales going on and you are trying to monetize through advertisers or through sponsors. And that is a case in which the bigger your audience, the more money you can potentially make. And so that makes sense that you would be asking this question. But if you are podcasting in order to market your business, your products, your services, or to create some kind of community engagement or social change through your nonprofit mission, then it's not directly a factor of how big your audience is, how successful your show is, or whether it's working. It is more important that the audience of your show is engaged and taking an action or doing something based upon what they're learning, what they're hearing, what they're observing from your show. And so there is a difference between audience growth and audience engagement. And depending upon what type of show you have and what the purpose of your show is, will depend upon whether it is better to invest in a strategy for audience growth or audience engagement. It also depends on where you are in the life cycle of your show. And it depends on things like how many do you need? So, in my private podcast feed, which is called Peace, Love, and Podcasting, I'll pop the URL up on the screen if you want to get that secret podcast feed. It is totally free. You can get it at bit.ly/pep exclusive. Here we go. bit.ly/pep, PEP, exclusive, all one word, all lowercase. That is where you can sign up for the free secret podcast, Peace, Love, and Podcasting. It is a very casual, the well thought out podcast from me about podcasting, and it is voice notes. So it is not edited, it is not scripted. It is thoughts that are coming up, observations that are coming up, realizations, learnings, trends, etc., as they arise directly from me. That podcast, I just recorded a new episode that will be popping into that feed later today, which is about how to think about the size of the audience that you need. And I give a very clear example that has nothing to do with podcasting. But if you think about it, sometimes people will get down on their audience numbers. They'll say, oh, I only have 100 downloads. That's terrible, because there are some shows that have like 5,000 or 10,000 downloads per episode. Well, first of all, the problem is that downloads don't equal audience. So the number of downloads you have is not a direct one-to-one of how many audience members you have. That's a technical discussion for never. But it is not a true representation of the number of people listening to or watching your show. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that if you think about it, if you were to book a room in your community, like say at a co-working space or something, community center, and give a presentation, and you had 100 people show up, that might be a pretty good turnout. I know it would be for me. I've been to so many classes and networking events and workshops and presentations that have had far fewer than that, and it has still been useful and beneficial. So 100 would be a great audience size. So therefore, if you did have a true audience of 100 people listening to your podcast episode who were the right people and were hearing your message at the right time, and it was resonating with them, and it prompted them to take some action and engage with you and your show and your brand and your nonprofit in the way that you wanted to, I would say that that would be successful, and that 100 people might be exactly the size audience that you need in order to be a pod star in your niche, in your field. So numbers are relative. Numbers are not an accurate representation of success. and there may be other things to consider. So, the questions that I'm asking when you ask me how to reliably and consistently grow your audience, the questions that I am asking you back are, why do you want to grow your audience? How many do you need? How many people? How big of an audience? Who is that audience? Like, who do you need? It's not just anybody. It's not just any old random person scrolling on Instagram. Uh, and speaking of Instagram, where are they? Where is your audience? What are they doing? I don't just mean online. I do mean online, but I also mean in real life. What are they doing in real space? What do they need and what do they want? Are you providing that? Can you provide that? Should you be providing that? And what has worked for you in the past? How have you grown your client list, your email list? How have you found customers and clients? How have you found audience members? How have you filled a venue or filled an event or a performance space? And my last question for you is, how can you make your show better? So, a lot of times when people ask this question, how do I reliably and consistently grow my audience? They think that they are talking about marketing, advertising, networking, social media. And most of the time, what I can reliably tell you is that there is probably an opportunity for you to improve the quality of your podcast in a way that not only do you attract more people to your show, but when they land on your show, they are more likely to stick and more likely to stay and more likely to come back the next time. And that is something that you can really focus on, is how can you make a better show? That being said, of course, there are a lot of tactics that you can employ to grow your audience. It's the reliably and consistently part that I think is challenging in this question. And so I think the answer to this is going to largely depend upon how you answered my additional questions. Question number 2 that I received when I put this out, this is another one of the biggest questions that I hear, see, and my colleagues will say that they get this question all the time, which is, how do I make money with my podcast? And you probably won't like my answer for this question either, which is, you might not. You might spend more money on your podcast than you make forever. You ready to give up now? This is truth. Let's say you have a hobby, and your hobby is that you love to fly drones. Are you going to make money from flying drones? You could. You could become a drone camera operator and team up with a real estate agency and do drone flyovers of properties that are for sale. You could monetize your hobby of flying drones. Is it likely? Probably not. Is it necessary? Do you have to monetize that hobby? Not necessarily. Do you still get value from buying and modifying and flying drones? Absolutely, or you wouldn't do it. That might be what podcasting is for you. Shocker. I know. I'm somebody who is allergic to hobbies, and I feel like you have to always have a purpose behind the thing that you're doing. You can't just do a thing because you enjoy doing it. It's a problem. It is a personality character flaw, I guess. I don't know. But that is answer number 1. Answer number 2 is that you might be using your podcast to draw attention to something. So it could be marketing, audience development, engagement growth. It could be a form of connection with your potential clients and customers. It could be a form of communication, a communication channel, connection channel for your existing people who have already purchased from you, or who have already bought in, or who are already your fan, or who already come to your shows. It might already be there, who already buy your books, whatever it is. It may be a method of deepening the relationship that you have with people who are already in your audience. It can be any of those things. It may not even be about your audience. Oh, gasp, this is a big one. It might actually be about the relationships and connections that you get to make with the people that you invite onto or to uh correct preposition, onto your podcast, the people that you invite into your podcasting space and that you're able to connect with and build those relationships with. It could be any of those strategies, in which case you might not be making money. You might be spending money, and that's fine. If you were placing ads, you would be spending money on that ad and hopefully, you would be getting a return on your investment, which, depending upon what it is you're advertising, can be difficult to measure. It's possible, and advertising like social media ads and things like that are probably one of the easiest to get metrics for that return on investment, based on impressions, based on engagement, based on click-through rates. But even that is not a guarantee of how much you're going to buy or how much you're going to earn. So there's still like, is it a direct action ad? Is it something like, click here to buy now and receive 50% off your first XYZ? That is a direct action ad that you can mark the results through that ad based on how many people click here now and get the 50% off and order the thing and buy. Like, you can then measure the dollar amounts. But sometimes, a lot of times, marketing and even advertising is about brand awareness or brand affinity. And those things are a little bit more intangible, and it is hard to tell off the top how much money you are directly making from that thing. So I would turn this around and say, like, let's look at whether this is actually your primary objective. Maybe you're just trying to see, is there an easy way that I can monetize the podcast, not for the podcast to become directly profitable. Maybe it's still going to cost me more to make it than it is that I'm going to earn on the back end. But you just want to sort of like see if there's a way to defray those costs or minimize those costs or kind of offset them. And that's totally reasonable. There are so many ways that you can do it. Some of the top ways that you can do it is if you are good at building a culture around your show, or you have saucy taglines, or you have an artist, or you are an artist, or you're good at graphics, you could do merch. You could sell merch through your podcast, and that might, for some people, it's very successful. For some people, it's not. You could do a Patreon. Patreon.com, if you don't know, is a website that you can create an account, and it's crowdfunding. So you can have people subscribe and donate money every month or every episode. I think they're changing it to only monthly options, monthly and annual subs, not per episode. And you can set the levels, the suggested giving levels, and then you create some kind of perks or incentives for people at those levels. So that is another thing, is crowdfunding through a site like Patreon. You could use these little add-ons that are like buy me a coffee, where people can throw a few dollars here or there. You can have sponsors, of course. That's a big one. You can do affiliate programs. So affiliate programs is something that I do a little bit of. I make a few $100s every year. So again, not a lot, but I make a few $100s every year on affiliate programs. And that is teaming up with a entity, a product, a service provider, etc., that has an affiliate program that has a way where you can promote their service, and they will then, every time somebody signs up using your unique link or your unique code, they will then kick back some pre-agreed upon incentive back to you for that referral. And for affiliate stuff, again, the payouts are usually smaller than like sponsors, and they do have to be the person. It's not just based on how many people hear the ad that you gave for them or the promotional message that you gave for them, but It is somebody who actually buys the service. So, for example, I am an affiliate for Captivate. Captivate is my media hosting company for my podcast. I love them. If you are starting a podcast and you're not sure what hosting company to use Captivate and use my code, which I don't have handy, but I will have to put somewhere. And I will get a payout for that referral. And it's a win win win, right? Which is kind of the cool thing. It is a win for Captivate because they have a new customer that I helped them procure. It's a win for me because I get the affiliate revenue. And it's a win for you as the customer because I am only an affiliate for products and services and service providers that I either currently use, have used, appreciate, love. So I am not going to tell you to sign up for Captivate if I have A, never used their services, or B, did use their services and had a bad experience. So it's a win 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 for everybody. So we have those. There are also an increasing number of podcast platforms that are doing dynamic ad insertion options where you can allow random ads into your show that you have no control over, minimal control over. And you don't know what's playing. It's based, the ad market is based more on data that the ad tech companies may have on the listener than on your show in particular. So, for example, when I was visiting Copenhagen, Denmark recently, I was listening to my regular podcast in my regular podcast app, and all of a sudden the ads were in Danish, which I do not speak Danish, but it was really fun to hear an ad for like Shopify in Danish. And because Shopify is a word that is Shopify, that's the brand name, whether you're speaking in Danish or speaking in English. And they have, Shopify has great audio branding with their little cha-ching sound branding that they have. So you would recognize, if you've heard a Shopify ad ever, you would recognize that little sound logo as Shopify, even if you couldn't understand anything in the ad. So there is that. The cautionary tale with dynamic ad insertion, easy money options that you can just opt into and not have to put very much work into, is that if you have a smaller audience, i.e., anything less than 5,000 downloads per episode per month, you're probably not going to make a ton of money and you might annoy a lot of your listeners or audience members in the process. So use with caution. You can also set up memberships. You can set up premium content behind a paywall. You can create a private podcast that is free, like mine, Peace, Love, and Podcasting, again, which you can sign up for at bit.ly/PEP exclusive. That is through a service called Hello Audio. And Hello Audio is another one of those companies that I'm an affiliate for. I think they do a great job. They provide an awesome service. Could be really useful if you want to do audio courses, private podcast feeds, premium content behind a paywall. All of that is possible with Hello Audio services. So these are just a handful of the ways that you can make money with your podcast. And the right strategy, the right approach is going to depend upon your specific show, your audience, your genre, and what it is that you are trying to do with your podcast. Also, how much time you have and how much effort you want to put into any of these monetization strategies. Okay, so question number 1 and question number 2 are done. Question number 3. In this day and age, if I have been podcasting happily along with an audio podcast forever, do I now suddenly have to do video? Likewise, if I have not yet started a podcast and I'm thinking about it, do I need to do video from jump? The answer, yes or no. The great thing about podcasting, one of many great things, is that you are in charge for the most part. If you're an indie creator, you are in charge. If you're not on a network, if you are on a network, you have to play by whatever the network's rules are, right? If the network wants you to do video, you have to do video. If you're with podcasting on behalf of a company or an organization and they want you to have video and YouTube is a priority for them or Spotify video is a priority for them, you have to play by those rules. But if you are creating for yourself and you are the primary decision maker, it is entirely up to you. I will also say that this is not an all or nothing question. There is a lot to be learned about video strategy. And yeah, a lot of companies are really pushing video and saying you must do it. A lot of consultants are pushing it and saying you must do it. I honestly think that the primary push to video is coming from the tech companies who provide video services, not from the audiences, and certainly not from the creators. Listen, creating high quality audio is such a a smaller, simpler lift than creating high quality video, and it's more affordable for a lot of people, it's a more comfortable space. There's also not just, like, ease and cost-wise, there is something about the intimacy of audio that if I am having a voice conversation and not worried about how I look on camera, etcetera, or whether I did my makeup well that day or whatever it is, then it's easier to focus in on the other person. It's easier to focus in on the conversation. It's easier to hear nuance in the voice if we're not distracted by the visual, right? Also, as a consumer, there are many of us who consume podcasts more than other forms of media because it is audio, because there is nothing for us to look at, because it is easy to have on our mobile device on the go, and our device can be in our pocket, it can be in the car phone holder, it can be whatever, and we're listening to it and doing other things. It is the one of the only things you can multitask, I believe. And so there are some of us who never want to watch a podcast video as long as we live. And the statistics show that actually audio primes, which is a data term for people who primarily consume podcasts through audio format, tend to be more highly engaged and consume more of your content than video primes. I can back this up with a little bit of data from my experiments with doing video. This video that I am recording and live streaming right now, it will probably get anywhere from 10 to 60 views on YouTube. I don't have a huge YouTube audience. I don't push it very hard. I'm not very consistent with my creation schedule, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't promote it ahead of time, all these things. Of those 10 to 60 views, most people are going to watch 3 minutes or less. They will never get to this point in the video. If you are here at this point in the video, wow. If you are here at this point in the audio only format, it's actually not that surprising that you're here 27 minutes into this live stream, into this audio version from the live stream, actually. So, in general, audio listeners of your show will tend to listen to on a good scale about 70% listen through rate. So that means the average listen through rate is about 70% of your episode, which means that there are some people that listen to 100, there are some people that listen to 50, there are some people that listen to 5, but it averages out to about a 70% overall consumption rate. In video, it's much lower than that. Much, 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 much lower. There are ways to do video and leverage video for discoverability for potential new audiences or audiences who are looking for the answer to a specific question, which is how people tend to use YouTube. It's either straight up entertainment or it's an answer to a specific question. You could be doing shorts. You could be leveraging video on TikTok as opposed to YouTube. You could be pulling content from your full length episodes and putting it out as video. You could be doing video creative. There's so many different video strategies that you could employ depending upon your time, your money, your resources, your audience, your preferences, and what it is that you want your show to do for you. The flip side of this question is if my show is already on YouTube, which some people are saying is the top podcast platform these days, do I also need to put it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts? Does there need to be an audio version of it? I would say if you're already doing video in a podcast format where it's either face to camera, like I'm doing now, or an interview or a talk show type format, if it translates to audio, yes, you should definitely be doing an audio format, even if the total listenership might seem lower on those platforms. Like I said, you might have a more engaged audience there, and it doesn't take a lot. It takes more to take a traditionally audio show and turn it into video than it does to start with a video show and turn it into audio for the most part. That being said, please don't publish your video podcast exactly as is on audio, because what works well on video might be different than audio. And there is no faster way to piss off your audio audience than to say, to reference something that is on the screen of your video that they cannot see. So you either need to describe what's on the screen or cut that part out or find a different way of conveying that information. Just think about the audience, think about how they are consuming that content and what they may need in that moment. But yeah, I really cannot see any reason whatsoever that you would not take a video formatted podcast and also create an audio version to put on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of the listening apps. That gets into the question about video on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm not talking about that today, more on that later, maybe, if I feel like it. Also, I don't have any data yet for that. Next question. We're almost to the end here. Next question is, will podcasts on Netflix eat the indie creators' lunches? Does the fact that there are now podcasts on Netflix with bigger budgets mean that they're going to squeeze us indie audio first creators out? Nah. I actually think this is a weird play, and I think mm, what Netflix spends on licensing and producing a podcast, a video podcast in streaming format is less than what they would pay for a high quality show or series that is like a scripted show or something like that. Even a reality TV show, there's a lot that goes into producing reality TV, and it can be quite expensive. Podcasts are a pretty low budget format, even video podcasts by comparison. So I think it's that. I think it's a licensing and IP type thing. I don't know if it's something that's gonna stick around, really. I have not yet talked to anyone who watches podcasts on Netflix. Doesn't mean they're not out there, they have to be, right? I just don't know them. So, I think it's 2 different things. I think they have almost nothing to do with each other. If anything, all it does is it means that even more people know the word podcast and have a concept of what it is, and it's not like a foreign language. So, nah, not worried about it. The final question that I have is in reference to today specifically, but even if you're not watching this or listening to this on Friday, June 26th, no worries. Today is the final day at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time to submit your podcast or episodes from your podcast to the 2026 Signal Awards. Signal Awards are in the background of my video here, which you can see some gold bars that look like audio levels with some gold headphones over them. And then underneath there is a silver one. There's also a bronze one floating around here somewhere. So I have been a Signal Award winner for shows that we created with the Santa Fe Opera and with the Del Sol String Quartet. And I've also won other awards. You see an Anthem Award at the top of that shelf for the show that we produced with the Del Sol String Quartet, which is called Sounds Current. The Santa Fe Opera show is called Key Change. And I have also become a part of the judging academy for the Signal Awards, which means for the past few years, and yes, right now in this very moment, we are in the midst of judging, and there's a whole bunch of us that have professional expertise in different areas of podcasting, different genres, different technical expertise, etc. And we all work together to judge the thousands of submissions that come in these different categories to narrow it down to the gold, silver, and bronze winners, to bestow recognition on those shows and creators. And so this question is, what did I learn from judging podcasting awards over the years? And there are definitely some things, like, we do not get paid to judge the awards. It's something that we do as an act of service for the community and for the industry. And I benefit by learning a lot about what is getting submitted, what gets recognized, what the standards are, what topics are trending in each category, etc. So for me, as a consultant that works on other people's shows and provides advice for people's shows, I have a lot of insight into genres that I don't even have clients in that genre. I will also learn because I'll hear category by category. They give us several shows to judge within the same category and give a score to based on certain criteria. So I will hear a lot of what's being submitted in these specific categories, and these are some of the best shows that are being submitted. Because it's not cheap to submit your show to the Signal Awards. It's also not the most expensive awards. It is one of the more accessible programs to participate in, especially as an indie creator, which I super appreciate from them. And you do have a chance of winning an award as a indie creator, which I also appreciate, because some of these, like, if you're not on a network with a big push and a big budget and lots of visibility or a celebrity host, you're never going to win an award. But this definitely is a space where you can be recognized for excellence and for what you're doing in your particular niche or space, even as an indie or low budget creator. So all of that, shout out to the Signal Awards for that. And also, there is a lot of things to keep in mind when you are submitting your show. It's not random. So here are a few things that I can say from the past few years. Now, I've just started judging this year's batch, so I don't have any insights or takeaways yet, but I probably will in a few weeks. And that is that, number one, if we banded the top podcast creators together to create a think tank, we could probably solve all of the world's problems. That is the first thing that I learned. One of my areas of expertise is social and cultural impact. And so I get served a lot of shows that are in the environmental sciences categories, the advocacy type podcasts, the social change type podcasts. I get served a lot of those. And we have collectively created so much content from some of the top minds in these fields that I think if we put it all together, we would have solutions to climate change. We would have solutions to equality amongst LGBTQ communities. We would have solutions to political strife. We would have solutions to hunger, to world peace, to poverty, to, like, we would have so many solutions if we just put the top podcast creator minds all together. It's probably all there in front of us, and someone just needs to synthesize it and implement it in a rational, effective way. So that is one thing that I learned. Another thing that I have learned is that a good interview with a smart or popular guest is not enough. It's not enough to win an award. It's not enough to stand out in the sea of hundreds of episode submissions in your category. And if that's the case, in the awards situation, that's certainly the case in terms of listenership. when all the podcasts, even podcasts that aren't being made anymore, are cluttering up the feed for your particular topic or niche. It's not enough just to have a good interview with a smart or interesting guests. Information is not enough. Solid, good reporting, good information, not enough. What I need as a judge when I'm listening to your episode, when I first click play and I don't know very much about you, I know what category you're in. I know the name of your show and I know the name of the creator. And that's about what I know when I click play on that judging submission. Is that I need you to hook me. I need you to make me in the first, I mean, I'm judging it, so I have to listen to it. So I'm going to give it longer than what the typical listener might give it. But even still, even with the obligation to listen to your episode or your show, I need you to make me feel something within the first 30 to 60 seconds. Or I need you to, within the first 30 to 60 seconds, make me laugh or make me pause to think about something. Not pause your episode, but just like if I'm doing dishes and I'm like, oh, interesting. Or to surprise me, give me something I did not expect to hear. And that can be done in a number of different ways. It can be done with effective storytelling. Yes, effective storytelling can be obvious within the first 30 to 60 seconds. We know when we're getting good storytelling. It could be through sound design, music. It could be through good, solid scripting, language use. It could be through a provocative question or inquiry or a controversial topic or a controversial take on an ordinary topic. So there is still room to capture somebody's attention, regardless of what your topic is, regardless of your niche, and regardless of your format. So I'm not saying you can't win awards with an interview podcast or you can't capture somebody's attention with an interview podcast. Of course you can. I am saying that it is probably the most prevalent format. It is probably one of the hardest formats to execute, not just well, but like superbly. And it is one of the hardest to stand out in. So, what can you bring if you are doing an interview show? What can you bring to hook me in that interview show and then hold me throughout the episode? And then, in general, in the first 30 to 60 seconds of your episode, how are you capturing my attention and making it feel like a joy and a delight to listen on to this new show that I maybe have never heard of before? Sometimes I get shows that I already listened to, and sometimes I get shows that I know of but have never had a reason to listen to. And a lot of times I get new shows that I will now become a follower of and will now listen to. And a lot of times I will listen to an episode and be like, okay, cool. And I never have to listen to that show again. So you got to have a hook in the beginning. There are so many different ways to do it. And you have to stand out in some way. Jeremy Enns, who is also a podcast marketing consultant, and he has a newsletter. I'm not sure if he's still doing this newsletter. I mean, I still get content from Jeremy all the time, but it was called Scrappy Podcasting. I think he may have changed that branding, but he used to have a newsletter called Scrappy Podcasting. And the quote that I had from his newsletter is, you want your audience member to say, I can't get your show out of my head. The only way they're going to say that, I can't get your show out of my head, is not just about that 30 to 60 second hook, but it is also about the overall impact, the shape, the structure, the storytelling, the emotional resonance of that podcast. Does that mean every podcast, every type needs to be strongly emotional? No, but I need to feel something. Or it will easily pass out of my head and I will not be thinking about your podcast days later. The other thing that I learned from podcast judging is sound quality matters first. If your podcast sound quality is subpar, it's going to be really hard for me to focus on the content because so many podcasts in your same category have excellent sound quality. So don't make that a barrier to becoming somebody's favorite podcast. Also, AI. Oh my God. Last year, I had a string of, I think, 10 podcasts in the thought leadership category. So, not tech category, not AI category, thought leadership, general thought leadership, leading the thoughts of the people in general. Of the 10 that were served to me for judging, like 8 of them were about AI. Of that, like 7 of them were hosted by men. And of that, like 6 of them were hosted by white men. So very one-sided, and most of it was like, yay, positive, pro, rah, rah, AI is great. Here are all the wonderful, amazing things that we can do with AI, and here's how to do it, and here's why it's changing the world. And they were, again, in the category of thought leadership. And I thought, oh, there's so many different thoughts in the world. There's so many different categories that we're thinking about. Like, does everything have to be about AI? This was exactly 1 year ago, June of 2025. We are in June of 2026. AI is still a hot topic. I mean, like, man, open the podcast app, scroll through how many podcasts that are not tech podcasts are talking about AI. It's pop culture. It's education, it's technology, it's social justice, it's astrology podcasts talking about AI, it's marketing, it's business, it's environmental podcasts, science podcasts, everything. So it hasn't gone away, but I will say that I think the lens has broadened, and now I'm seeing still all the rah podcasts about how great AI is for all of us, but I'm seeing a lot more critique, philosophy, and deep thought around how we are implementing AI in these different spaces. So I think the conversation has shifted a bit. And I know we're still figuring it out. I know for a lot of us, it's still really exciting. I know for a lot of us, it's still really terrifying. And I want to hear some thought leadership around things that have nothing to do with AI, please. At the same time, I have heard some really solid, interesting thought leadership around AI. Um, I want to make a list. Actually, I'm not going to do it right now, but I want to make a list of some of the top leadership that I'm finding in the podcast space, critical thinking around AI from different sectors and points of view. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. So these are the questions that I got for my Ask Me Anything. I always think I'm going to talk for 20 minutes, and here we are, 47 minutes and 42 seconds later. So these questions were, how do I reliably and consistently grow my audience? Answer is, it depends. How do I make money with my podcast? Answer is, you might not. Do I have to do video? Answer is yes and no. Question is, if my show is on YouTube, do I need to also put it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc.? Answer is, why not? Will podcasts on Netflix eat the indie creator's lunch? Nah. And what did I learn from judging podcasting awards over the years? Make a better show. Make a show that hooks me in 30 to 60 seconds, and then be so compelling and so creative about the way you're executing your show that after I've listened to it, I can't get it out of my head. That's your AMA Ask Me Anything for today from your pod boss, Andrea Klunder at the Creative Imposter Studios. Again, I encourage you, if you are actually still watching this very long video, or if you are listening to the audio, to hit me up for my secret podcast, Peace, Love, and Podcasting at bit.ly/pep exclusive. And heads up, if you want the inside scoop on my 5-pointed framework for how to become a more magnetic podcast creator, this is the Podstar framework. And I am going to be giving you the full 5-pointed framework for free when you sign up for our exclusive Zoom session on Friday, July 17. Friday, July 17. And that URL to sign up for free is bit.ly/podstar-framework, all one word, all lowercase. Let me make sure that is the correct URL before I log out of here and put it on the screen. Yes. The URL to sign up for that free Zoom session is bit.ly/podstar-framework. And that will take you to my Calendly, which will show you the Zoom session, which is scheduled for Friday, July 17 at 2:00 p.m. Central Time. It's a 75-minute session. It'll be generally about an hour long with time for discussion and Q&A. And if you are live, you can ask your questions and also have me apply portions of the framework to your show on the session. And if you cannot make it live, no worries, you'll get the replay. And that is a preview into something that I am offering in August, which is my Podstar Framework Summer Pod Camp. I love putting pod in random places. I hope podcasting as a word never goes away. My summer pod camp will start in August, and that is not a free experience. That is a paid experience because we are going to dig deep into applying that Podstar framework to your show, to your goals, to questions like the ones that were asked today that are relevant to your show. So if you asked me how to grow your audience and I asked you those questions back, then we would be able to work through those answers together and come up with the strategy that would work best for you in order to make you a more magnetic creator and help you grow your specific right audience for the purposes that you want to grow them for. So your show can do the thing it was designed, well, the thing it was intended to do and now will be designed to do as well. And that is a primarily asynchronous PodCamp, which means that even if you're traveling or you're on vacation or your work is really busy in August or whatever it is, you'll still be able to get the full benefit and participate. And you will have synchronous one-on-one time with me that we'll schedule at our mutual convenience. But the first step is to sign up for the free Zoom session at bit.ly/podstar framework. Get the full framework, start seeing how you can apply it now on your own to your show and to your podcasting experience. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things I've ever created. It comes not just from my decade plus of podcasting experience, but also comes from my background in theater and filmmaking and being a casting director and observing what talents people have and what is naturally magnetic or naturally attractive about certain people and how to double down on those qualities. And so that is a lot of what we're going to be doing. It'll be customized to you and your show and your audience. So who doesn't love spending time thinking about themselves? That's what I'm here for. All right. This has been The Creative Imposter. I am your pod boss, Andrea Klunder, and I hope that some of these questions and answers were helpful and interesting and enlightening to you. If you're on the fence about submitting your show to the Signal Awards today, do it. Go for it. It's a great community. You have a good chance of being recognized, and the trophies are really pretty. So go for it. Submissions close today, Friday, June 26th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. There is no time to waste. Go for it. All right. Thanks. I'll see you soon.